Good afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone to the 2021 virtual James E. McLeod Honors and Awards Program. My name is Cheryl Holland. I am a librarian here at Washington University in St. Louis. I'm honored to say that I have co-chaired this event for the past 12 years. This year, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary. The program, originally called the Black Honors and Awards Program, was established in 1971, inspired by Dr. Robert C. Johnson, a faculty member in the Black Studies program and an early champion of social justice and inclusion within the Washington University community. The program's original intent was to recognize Black students for their outstanding academic achievements and scholarship, their leadership in promoting cultural understanding between Blacks and the campus community, and their service to the St. Louis region. The program has a tradition of being a place of community, inspiration, and support for Black students, faculty, and staff. Students of all levels majoring in any subject have been recognized and honored for their excellence and achievements. The resilience of the program can be seen through the leadership and dedication of its faculty, staff, and students, who for 50 years did what was necessary to continue this strong tradition of Black excellence at Washington University in St. Louis. The program has been renamed twice, once in 1992 to honor W.E.B. Du Bois in recognition of his legacy as an educator, historian, and civil rights activist, and again in 2012 to honor James E. McLeod, who embodied the spirit of the award and whose stature in the community as an administrator and educator was impeccable. In 2019, the program opened its eligibility requirements and now welcomes and encourages all people to participate who are committed to advocating for, supporting, and celebrating Black culture. Today, you will hear from speakers from all levels of the campus community, telling their personal story of what James E. McLeod and the awards program has meant to them and Washington University in St. Louis. Thank you.
Greetings and thank you for allowing me the chance to say a word of congratulations as you gather together to celebrate 50 years of recognizing Black students for their academic excellence, leadership, and service to Washington University and beyond through the McLeod Awards, formerly named the DuBois Awards. This program was created from a faculty and staff initiative to celebrate and encourage Black students and their contribution to make Washington University a better place for all. This is such an important moment in our university's history, one I'm honored to have the chance to recognize as WashU's 15th Chancellor. It means that for 50 years, the James McLeod Awards Program has acknowledged students who demonstrate a commitment to academic excellence, individual pursuits promoting expression of Black culture, history, and values, and service to improve quality of life for Black people. Please know how much I value and commend this program and our annual awardees. Recognizing students' passions, voices, and accomplishments serve as tangible reminders for us to remain hope-filled as we continue our resolve to gain knowledge, seek understanding, engender change, and pursue progress toward racial equity and inclusion, particularly for Black people. Congratulations again on this important milestone, and thank you.
Dr. Robert Johnson came to Washington University in 1967 to study business. While a student, he was active in the Association of Black Collegians, which led the March on Brookings in 1968. He received 3 degrees at Washington University and taught in the Black Studies Department. He served as a Black Studies Program's acting chair in the late 1970s. As a graduate student, Johnson proposed the idea of the awards program to the Black Studies faculty as a way to recognize Black student contributions on campus at a time when they felt invisible. The awards program was a way to not only recognize and celebrate Black students, but to also bring to light Black student accomplishments at Washington University.
Basic idea was to inform and inspire. The inform part was to help people become more aware of and knowledgeable about the contributions that a great number of African Americans and Africans made to the advancement and liberation of African communities around the world. And so in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, not a whole lot was known by African Americans or other people about the people who went to great sacrifices and great lengths to improve the condition of the African or the Black experience, as well as the overall condition of humanity. And so as I learned more about these people, I wanted to share that information with others. And so one purpose was to name awards after these historic figures as a way to inspire students to emulate and to carry on that work. And so the inspiration then was to let students know that there were people who came before us who sacrificed a great deal to make it possible for us to be where we were, and to honor those students who were making contributions to the campus community, to the larger community, both in St. Louis and also to the international and national communities. And so we had a good number of talented and creative students then, as we still have today, I'm sure, there at Washington University, very intelligent, creative people. And it was to help them direct and to target their skills and talents, not just for their own personal development, but also for the greater good of our society, particularly those who were disadvantaged, those who were marginalized, and those who were suffering from the enormous amount of problems that we have in our society due to injustice and racial inequalities. I initiated it and I brought it to the faculty of the Black Studies program, and we adopted the idea. And then we started identifying students and getting nominations and the like. I do recall some of the early ceremonies were very large. We had a good turnout. We used Graham Chapel, and we had a full house there in that facility. So I don't remember all of the details, but the program grew over the years, involving other faculty members and student groups. And I believe, as you mentioned, the name changed. I think the intent remained fairly much the same over the years, but we may have had other categories or other ways in which we got different groups of students involved, graduate students, and we may have extended the recognition beyond the initial categories to include other types of activities.
The program continued to grow after Dr. Johnson left the university. As new faculty and staff joined the university community, they continued to participate in the program. Faculty members, staff, and student groups were integral to the growth and sustenance of the program over the past 50 years.
Hello, my name is Elfrida Brown, and I'm coming to you virtually from Little Rock, Arkansas. I'd like to thank Cheryl Holland and the Planning Committee for the James McLeod Honors and Awards Program, for the honor and the privilege of being able to participate in the 50th anniversary of the program's existence on Washington University's campus. I joined the Career Center staff in 1983 and quickly became a part of the community that worked very diligently to make sure that the Black students who were admitted to Washington University were supported, nurtured, mentored, and embraced. We felt that the Black Honors and Awards Program, which is what it was known as back in the 70s and 80s, was one way of helping students who were often in those days ignored, overlooked, and unappreciated, that they were indeed doing significant things in the St. Louis community in their volunteer efforts, but more importantly, that they were accomplishing significant things academically as well. So we had in those days a very committed group of people. Many of them are no longer with us, but are in our hearts. People like Robert L. Williams, Dr. Robert L. Williams, Dr. Leon Ashford, Dr. Florida Bosley, Adrian Glore, and Dorothy Elliott, just to name a few. There were many, many more, who made sure that each year about this time that our students got in their support documents and their transcripts and their resumes and participated in interviews so that we as staff and faculty could lift them up and acknowledge them and celebrate them for their accomplishments. So in those days, it was truly a mission, and it was something that we felt very, very committed to, because we knew that the students that we were working with at that time were going to be able to take the education, the exposure, and the experiences from Washington University and go out and do great things in the world.
In 2012, the program was renamed for the late James E. McLeod. McLeod came to the university as an assistant professor in German. He also served in various administrative roles on campus, with his last roles being Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and Vice Chancellor for Students. His genuine love for all students shone through, and it was natural that the award ceremonies were named in his honor. But who was Dean James E. McLeod?
Hello, my name is Gerald Early. I am the chair of the Department of African and African American Studies. I'm here to say a few brief words about an old friend and colleague, James McLeod. James had three important jobs at Washington University, as I remember. He was assistant to the Chancellor, William Danforth. He was, for 5 years, the director of the Black Studies program, as it was called in the time that he was doing this. and he was the dean for student affairs and eventually became the vice chancellor of student affairs. He was a very influential man. He really set the tone for how Washington University dealt with its undergraduate students and really gave Washington University a vision for undergraduate education. He was a very quiet man, kind man, very thoughtful man. And he did so much for students while he was here. He was always very open and accessible with them. And he was very helpful to them in being willing to listen to them and to know them. He stressed this across the entire culture of the university, stressing that we should know every student by name and by story. And for a time with Jim, I would say we had a kind of golden age of undergraduate education here, where students, I think, felt happiest during the years when Jim was the vice chancellor for student affairs. I also remember him as someone, when he was running the Black Studies program, as important for Black faculty. The program was very weak when he took it over in the late 1980s, and he was able to really stabilize it and give it some direction. He was very helpful in giving it a kind of vision of reaching out and wanting to bring different kinds of people in to make the Black Studies program not just something for Black students, but something for the entire university community, because the entire university community needed it. And this he conveyed to the faculty who were there at the time. And I think it made a very big difference in how the faculty saw themselves and how the faculty saw the mission of the Black Studies program. So in these two ways, I feel the university is enormously indebted to James McLeod. And I will always remember him as a friend and a colleague and as an enormous presence at the university.
Hello, my name is Rob Wild. I am, like many people, somebody who considered Jim McLeod as a friend and mentor. In reflecting on what Jim meant to me in my career at Washington University, Dean McLeod was a leader in student affairs during a very formative part of my personal career. I think what I remember most about Jim was how he helped us all think about the lives of our students in complex as well as compassionate ways. Jim would always ask us to think about the story behind every student as we worked with students, to understand when they were at their best and sometimes when they weren't at their best, the many factors that affect a student's success at Washington University, and that we approach students with a sense of grace and compassion to understand their motivations, their stories, and a reminder that every student at Washington University is part of our family. Jim, through many situations, would help us think about the other side of the story. He would ask us to put ourselves in the shoes of people who were different from ourselves. And I always found Jim to be a patient and thoughtful leader. And I am forever grateful for the time that I had personally to work with Dean McLeod.
The presence of Dean McLeod is felt all over the university. There is a painting in the Danforth University Center to remind us of his reach, and McLeod Way is an integral part of the South 40 because of his impact on residential education and living learning communities. Not only have faculty and staff remarked on his impact, his students, now alum, often speak of the lessons learned from Dean McLeod.
Good evening. My name is Angela Roberts, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you this evening for the James E. McLeod Honors and Awards Ceremony, celebrating 50 years. I first met Dean McLeod in 1995 as a rising junior with the St. Louis Internship Program, which desired to have inner city students work in corporate America. I was selected for Washington University with the College of Arts and Sciences. As a Washington University student, I had the pleasure of working with Dean McLeod as president of the Council of Students of Arts and Sciences. We often discussed many issues, but what I remember most about those discussions was his ending. He always asked, what could he do to help me? There has been two guiding principles that I try to live by as it relates to Dean McLeod. The first is to know each student by name and story. Now that has translated for me to know any person that I encounter by name and story. And secondly, I must have a strong commitment to serve and actively engage within the community where I live and work. For me, I really try to live by both of these principles in my everyday interactions with whomever I may encounter, whether that be a homeless person on a corner asking for spare change, or a CEO of a company asking for me to spare my time for a worthy cause.
So to say that Dean McLeod influenced my current trajectory is somewhat of an understatement. Much of how I lead and what I choose to give my energy to can be attributed to his example. As a student worker in the College of Arts and Sciences, an Irvin Scholar, and a past W.E.B. DuBois Award recipient, I was able to witness firsthand Dean McLeod's commitment to leadership, scholarship, and service. He epitomized what it means to lead with grace and humility, possessing a quiet strength that permeated the campus and was felt by anyone with whom he interacted. He was someone for whom people and place mattered. He never allowed his title nor his workload to hinder him from being fully present with people and their stories. And he believed that we should all strive to leave places better than we found them. As such, I am committed to investing whatever skills, knowledge, and resources I have been blessed to acquire thus far into making my community better. Dean McLeod was a man of integrity who led by example in all that he did, including his commitment to and engagement with the broader St. Louis community. St. Louis is home for me, but when I was invited to return to Washington University a few years ago to lead an initiative focused on college access, education equity, and increasing opportunity for underrepresented St. Louis area high school students, I did so with pride and with a deep sense of responsibility for continuing Dean McLeod's legacy. I love St. Louis and Washington University, and I want nothing more than to contribute in whatever measure I am able to their thriving. Dean McLeod's vision for supporting the academic achievements of underrepresented students made it possible for me to attain a degree from WashU. And it was his continued personal investment in me during my days as an undergraduate student and beyond that compels me to invest my time, talent, and treasure doing the same for others.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Hall. I'm a 2014 graduate of Washington University, and I was so blessed during my time there to not only be an Irvin Scholar, but in the inaugural class of the James E. McLeod Scholars. And I'm so excited to be able to speak to you all today about Dean McLeod, who I got to know during my freshman year of college, and to celebrate him and the 50th anniversary of this phenomenal program. When I first arrived at WashU was for urban orientation, and at that time, Dean McLeod had all of us, all 20-some of us students, go around and introduce ourselves because it's so important for him and for the rest of us to know everybody by name and story. And so all of us went around in a circle, introduced ourselves, told our name and told our story and how we ended up at WashU in the first place. And I've always carried with me the importance of really getting to know other people by their name and story because they're full humans who deserve to have their story known and celebrated by the people who they are working with and for every day. And then Dean McLeod stood up and he said, all right, I have this $20 for the person that tries to go around and name every person in this room. we were all so nervous because we had just heard everybody's names. There was a lot of people. We had just seen each other. This was only the second time we had even met a lot of these other students, and so everyone was really nervous to even to do this, because what if we got it wrong? And one student, Anthony Maltbia, said, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll try." And he went around the circle and he didn't get everybody's name right. And we all thought, well, you're not going to get the $20, but Dean McLeod gave him that $20. And he said, "Remember what I said? I said, who is going to try?" And try to name everyone in this circle. And I think one of the most important things that I learned from Dean McLeod, and that I continue to carry with me, and I believe that this program celebrates, is that sometimes the hardest thing to do is try. And we need to celebrate every time that we try, whether we fail or whether we are enormously successful. So congratulations, and thank you for honoring Dean McLeod, and thank you for trying.
I'm so appreciative to all of you here today to honor Washington University students who have contributed to African Americans by providing scholarly research and services to the St. Louis community. I want to thank Chancellor Martin for participating in this event. Cheryl Holland, as chair of the James E. McLeod Honors and Award Committee, and all participants and committee members for their dedication to this program. As we reflect on Dean McLeod, let us remember his devotion to all students in our community. Though he valued the opportunity to serve his Washington University family, he wanted us all to be known by our name and our story, to allow us to be our best self, and that included himself as well. He loved the time he spent teaching German here at the university. He valued the growth that resulted from not only exploring a topic with passion, but also the researcher's strong desire to improve the world of knowledge. He understood the value of research to the community and to the researcher. He was a fervent library user, believing that the research done by others brought much value. And once he understood that I was not his personal librarian, he recruited Rudolph Clay, a spectacular and patient reference librarian who spent many hours gathering information on the varied topics that he needed for his work and his personal growth. Congratulations to all of you who have received awards over the past 50 years, celebrating academic achievement, scholarship, leadership, and community service on campus and within the St. Louis community. I want to leave you with the following thought that Dean McLeod said often, and my interpretation of that goal for the Washington University community. Learning, he said, is not a spectator sport. For me, that simply means you must be an active participant in the research, in the learning process that result in research, and in the how, the why, and the where the research is implemented.
The concept of Sankofa reminds us that we must go back to our roots in order to move forward. That is, we should reach back and gather the best of what our past has to teach us so that we can achieve our full potential as we move forward. The awards program recognizes undergraduate and graduate students who represent students striving for excellence and achievement. Students then have a responsibility to impact the next generation of students.
Achievement. The people who were the inspiration for these awards were people who had great accomplishments in their life. They were highly accomplished professionals, as well as people who made great contributions to humanity. And so the idea was to strive for excellence, strive for accomplishment, strive for advancement, and to be aware that we were not the first group of talented people to grace the campuses of institutions like Washington University. We happen to have certain opportunities that our predecessors did not have, and we were in a position to use the skills and talents that we developed through this type of exposure to help others. And so our responsibility today is to pay it forward. We can honor those who came before us, but we can't repay them. But we can pave the way for continued success for other people who would be denied these types of opportunities. So very simply, pay it forward, contribute, be responsible, be aware of how we got to where we are, and help others to achieve in life.
James E. McLeod believed aspects of student life were critical to personal and professional development. Key aspects of development are shown through participation in creative and performing arts, service to the Washington University and St. Louis communities, leadership provided to peers and the campus, and research inquiry in the sciences, humanities, and social sciences. Though it has been 50 years since this awards program has begun and 10 years since James E. McLeod has left us, his memory lives throughout campus of Washington University. Dedicated Black faculty and staff will continue to celebrate Black students.